to the book bunch. Today I'm going to be taking you through 6 books. They're all sci-fi books, and I think they're probably the best ones that I have read yet. So let's get into the video. So firstly, I'm going to take you through 3 classics that I think really changed my life in regards to how I view the world, but also just like great literature that I've read. So the first one would be Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. Now I know that this book has a bit of controversy because some people love this book like myself, and other people really don't like it, which I thought was really interesting because being one of the people that really love this book, I don't know how you could not. Maybe the reason I like it so much is just because it was the first book in school that I read that really kind of captivated me and made a difference to me. So this book is basically about a man, his name is Guy, and he is a firefighter. But in this version of the world, firefighters are people who burn down different things. So most of the time it's places that have books in them, or people's homes who have been harboring books, different things like that, because books are illegal in this world. And basically he ends up finding some books, and he gets curious by the fact that, like, why would his whole job and life be about burning these books? And so he ends up taking a couple secretly and he reads them, and it basically changes his whole life. So that's what this one's about. It basically plays on the whole dystopian government kind of utilitarian, like if the government were to control what you read or not let you read at all, how would that change society and all of that kind of thing, and how people live. So I really liked this one. It does have, like, it does fit the sci-fi category because there's a lot of futuristic technology in there. Like, there's this whole room in people's houses that is just full of, like, it's just screen, floor to ceiling screen, and it's kind of like VR, but you're just interacting with this room basically. But yeah, it was really good. All of these books that I have read today that I'm showing you, I've given 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, definitely recommend this one. Following along that dystopian utilitarian government theme, the next book that I have to show you is George Orwell's 1984. This one is a major classic. I totally understand why. It truly is phenomenal. He did a really great job at kind of capturing what it would be like if the government kind of took over completely, and like how that affects society and people. And this one follows a man who, he basically finds out that the government is rewriting history to make it say what the government wants it to say. So if they kill someone off, for example, they just write them out of history as if they never existed. Or if they bring out a new law, they erase any history of there ever being anything but this law. And it basically kind of plays with your mind a little bit, because the main character for a good while there is trying to work out, like, whether it's all in his head or if they actually are doing it. And he basically, like, infiltrates the government to find out what kind of happened. This one is very sad, but it's kind of appropriate because it's sad in a way that it needs to be to really make a difference. So yeah, I really recommend this one. It was a really good read. And lastly, for classics, we've got H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds. This one doesn't really have much of a strong government message or political stance or anything. This is just a bunch of fun. It's about aliens who come down to try and take over the world, and there are movies that are made about this, like retellings basically. They don't follow this story 100%, just so if you have watched the movies, it's not the same as the book, so you probably should give it a read anyway. Movie was still great, but yeah, the book was so much better. So this basically follows another man who basically works out that the world is being taken over by these aliens, as does everybody else, and he is just trying to survive this situation and trying to work out a way to survive long enough that the aliens can be wiped out. And pretty much all of society is falling, fighting them isn't working, like trying to shoot them down with guns and all of that kind of thing. It's not really having much of an effect. So the amount of a dent that they're making into the aliens' army is nowhere near the comparison to what the aliens are doing to the people. And it basically, yeah, you go through this guy's journey of survival to try and outlive these aliens and their attack. And like the most unexpected thing happens to cause the aliens to kind of go away and for him to survive it. So it's really, really good. I did like the twist. I hadn't seen the movie when I had read this book, so what happened was really unexpected to me. It is very similar to what happens in the movie though in regards to the twist. So if you have watched the movie, then reading this, you probably already understand what's going on. But yeah, definitely recommend. Lots of fun if you like aliens and survival stories. This is a really good one. So now we're going to be talking about 3 sci-fi books, also 5 stars, but they are books that are not classics. So they're written in the last like 10, 15 years. They're really, really good. Definitely recommend all of these ones. So the first one is Sea of Rust by C. Robert Cargill. So this book, I had never heard of this book before I picked it up. I found this book on the Bookgrocer's website, but yeah, I hadn't heard anything about it. The blurb though was really interesting to me, so I picked it up and I was very pleasantly surprised with this book. This book basically follows a robot, so it's from the perspective of a robot, and all of humanity is wiped out. Like there are no humans left. Like the AI won. That's what the start of the story is. And basically it's following like inter-rival and gangs and stuff of these different AIs, because there's different models of AIs. Like there's companions and there's military and there's accountants and all different things. And basically the Sea of Rust, which is the main part of this story, is where basically they send robots to die. So either robots who are damaged and they can't get parts for them anymore because they've been discontinued, or they've been banished there for whatever reason to kind of run out of energy and die, because they like run off batteries like that need to be solar powered, or they need to plug in somewhere. And yeah, basically it follows this. There are the main enemies in this story are these giant kind of they're kind of like almost godlike AI who are meant to be more intelligent than just the individual AI, because they are an amalgamation of hundreds of thousands of AI that have kind of all joined this one body and this one mind. And basically they are trying to take all of the little AI and make them part of themselves. So basically take over the world again. Like AI taking over AI to take over the world, if that makes sense. And yeah, it follows this journey of this, the main AI that you follow, and she kind of picked up a ragtag team along the way, and basically they try to fight these bigger AI entities. It was really good. I really liked it. Really unexpected too. I haven't read a story like this. At first I thought it might have been a little bit like iRobot, but it really wasn't, because like iRobot was about people battling AI, but this was about like just machine versus machine, because everything else was gone, and like even animals and plant life, like it was all gone. Yeah, it was a really, really good read, really interesting. Definitely recommend picking this one up. And yeah, I really love the main character's name. Her name is Brittle, which I think is a really cool name, especially since like it's her name, but it also kind of describes her as a person, well, as an AI as well, because she's running out of parts, and so she's physically brittle, but then also like the way they kind of play with your mind and like the bigger AI try and take over people's minds and different things like that, it kind of makes your mind and your experience in life brittle as well. So it was really good, really interesting, some major plot twists that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, it was really, really good. Definitely recommend. Then we have the Eden Trilogy by Kerry Taylor. This series is extraordinary. This was the first series I ever fell in love with. It still holds up. It's probably my second favourite series of all time now. But basically this follows this girl named Eve, and she is part of this group of humans that is trying to survive because the world has been taken over almost like zombies, but they're not really, I don't know if you'd really call them living dead because it wasn't from a disease. They've actually been taken over by nanites. So basically what happens, you find out relatively fast in the first book, is like technology advanced so greatly that instead of like having a normal organ transplant where like you'd have a flesh organ, they created these nanites and put these nanites in these like fake organs, so like metallic organs, then put them in your body. But then the nanites, instead of just doing what they were programmed to do, decided to kind of take over the people and turn them completely into like metal humans. So they basically kind of killed the humans and just made them robots basically, but they still have like the flesh, like the skin on the outside. And the robots take over all of these people, but there's something in them that can sense people around them that haven't been infected, and they hunt them down to infect them and like bring them into this group. It's really spoopy actually, because like they'll walk into a shop, for example, to go get supplies, and then all of a sudden they'll be like ambushed by these robot people who like were just completely silent and still and looked dead, but then they weren't dead, and like stuff like that. It's crazy. It's kind of scary, and it's really good. And the ending of this trilogy is just, it's insane, like in the best way. It made me have so many emotions. I threw the book when I read it the first time, and it made me cry, definitely. And but also like I can't even explain it, you just have to read it. But it was so good, and like each book was good, and each book I couldn't put down. It's not like one of those series where the first book's really good or the first couple of books are really good and then kind of the ending falls off or you kind of lose interest. This was just bam the whole way through, and I couldn't put down any of them. So definitely recommend the series. Definitely try and pick this up. This one is hard to get a physical copy of. You can find it more as like an ebook, just so you're aware. But yeah, really good series. Definitely recommend this. Love this. And then the final book, of course, it would have to be the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson, which I read very recently. I only read this month, and I've already put a video out on it because it was so good. It changed my life. This one has taken the top spot over the Eden Trilogy as my favourite series of all time. I love this book. It follows a girl named Spencer, and they are on this kind of world where they have been made essentially refugees, and they live underground because this other race is trying to attack them from the air and destroy them. And so they are trying to build up a fighter pilot army to kind of fight back. And her dad was a fighter pilot, and he ended up dying, and she decided to take his place because basically her dad was labelled as like a deserter essentially, and was shot down by his crew. And so she wanted to kind of reclaim the family name and restore his legacy because she believes that he wasn't a deserter. And yeah, this book was so good. The whole series so far is so good. I cannot wait. There's only like 5 more days until the 3rd book comes out, Cytonic, so I'm really excited. I've already pre-ordered it. But yeah, again, both of these books in this series couldn't put down. Super fast paced, super amazing. Every little bit was interesting. Yeah, it was so good. If you want to look at my like proper in-depth review, definitely go check that one out because it was really good. So I won't go into too much detail here, but I would definitely recommend this to everyone. I will note though, some people on like Goodreads and stuff say that they find the main character a bit annoying, or a bit mean, but I don't see her that way. Like, I see it as that's what she's meant to be. Like, she's kind of meant to be this hard, rough girl because she has been shamed her whole life and outcast her whole life because of her dad's reputation, and so like it's made her this tough kind of nut. But there is definitely a lot of character development, so if at first she puts you off, keep reading because she does develop quite a lot as a character. So you might find her annoying at the beginning, but then closer to the end and into the 2nd book you might find her really interesting. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Definitely gave it a 5 out of 5 stars though, and like the cover is beautiful, so why would you not want it? But yeah, that's all the books for this week and this video in regards to my favourite sci-fi reads so far. I will keep you updated, of course, when I find some new goodies, but they are my top 6, not in any particular order, but I'd probably say Skyward is probably my favourite one. But yeah, definitely really good. So let me know if you agree with me in the comments below, if you're wanting to read any of those books, or if you've already read them and what your thoughts were. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But anyway, have a great week. Bye!